My name is Piet Buck, and I'm very happy to talk to you live from the S&OP Vendor Day at Supply Chain Media about the business case of transparent AI in demand planning and the impact of a new concept called Bionication. Who am I? I'm the CEO of Garvis, a company started more than a year ago with the idea to make AI transparent and to get rid of the lengthy implementation times in demand planning and supply chain planning. I want to start with an image that is clear to everybody, the Evergreen. The Evergreen made it clear that we're all connected. On the one side, barbecue parties got stopped because the electric lighting was not there for the garden festivities, but on the other hand, whole industries came to a halt because spare parts were on that boat and the boat following. So what came out of it is that as an economy, we're all connected, but from a system point of view and from a knowledge worker of view, there is no way to get that information in your system. And this we wanted to change. So where can we find value when we talk about the business case? First of all, the past is not a very good predictor anymore of the future as COVID, climate change. So yet all the systems that we use the past as a predictor statistical system. Secondly, we're in a connected world, but all that data, all that information about your customers and event, we cannot connect to our systems. Thirdly, the world is fast changing. I don't think anybody will deny that, but this content in our systems, we have to ask our solution provider, please give me a project, and it takes sometimes up to 6 months to adapt the environment. And on top of that, there is what we call the perfect storm, because since COVID, the biggest impact of COVID is that business to business, but all consumers, they went to the internet, they went digital, and they expect from each organization that they have at least an alternative channel, and they want to compare, and they want to have the Amazon experience. So what are we going to talk about? So in the current systems, what are inherent problems? How can we define value? And what can AI do? Because there are a lot of misunderstanding. And then we go to the business case and conclusion. There's a lot in this program, so forgive me if maybe I don't explain everything in full, but there is a lot of information behind it. First of all, demand planning is extremely important because everything an organization does is based on that plan, what they source, what they deliver, how they organize themselves. Yet the assumption is that the past will be the same to the future as basic assumption. And on top of that, you have the complexity has increased. So the past is not the future anymore, just because there are so many more channels to which you can sell. You can sell through Bolt.com, you can sell to Amazon, but you also have your brick and mortar environment there. So if you use yesterday's solutions, and yesterday's solution, basically statistical, the net of it is that it look at how data relate to one another without understanding the data themselves. So you leave 20 to 40% reduction of error is out of your reach. But it's also very time consuming and very hard in the increasing complexity of channels and data to do all of this work manual, which is basically the statistical processes. It has a big impact on time and people. And knowledge workers are people that know as well the system as the business are getting very, very scarce. The accuracy is not what it should be in order to stay profitable. And it looks like a bit the myth of Sisyphus. You repeat your work, but you don't gather any insights out of this. And all of this has influence on this triangle by missing revenue. Capital employed is the quantity of stock you need to keep to satisfy your customer, and the cost, so the trade funds or the money you put in to create that revenue. So if the red line on the left is your forecast, which if your forecast is like an average, which is a lot of Excels, then the increasing volatility has a huge impact on your revenue, on the stocks that you need to have ready to work and to fulfill customer at a certain level. So the impact can be 4 to 6%. But that's the forecast. But even more lies the potential in embracing the change. So understanding what these events, what these competitions, what these customers are, and translate that in the right action using your trade funds, your product, and your safety stock capacity, not only to create the right answers, but also get the maximum out of your enterprise, understanding what your customers are doing. So that's what we are going to talk about. So let's first talk about artificial intelligence. It's a very broad and general, and basically it's a it's like the modern definition of machine learning. Machine learning is where computers try to make sense of data to predict the future. And there has been a lot of evolution. So the data scientists that used to write statistical models in the past now have evolved into, to make a long story short, into an environment which is called AutoML, where they can choose different models that can compete against each other for the best possible result in an environment where data are available. One of these models can be deep learning, but it can also be random forest. It can be natural language processing. Not try to do name dropping. It just says that now environments can be created where models that are fit for a certain environment can work on a data set quite easy. Another element I would like to introduce is data wrangling capabilities. It's not so much trying to predict what is there, but it's trying to predict what it's not there. And that's mostly when you have to do with data. Data are mostly not very structured as they are outside, and data need to be translated into sets that can be linked to model. And that's the power of data wrangling. Data wrangling has made an enormous evolution. And so that the traditional one-to-one interfaces can be replaced by something more advanced. So just to give you an idea, what artificial intelligence can do and how it's approached in the demand environment. Look at these points. These points, for statistical, it doesn't matter. It could be as well numbers, it could be a time series, it could be anything, but that's how statistics work. They're going to try to fit to the environment. And if there is an outlier, and as a planner, you don't intervene and you tell what the outlier is, the system will take that point into the equation and your average will be skewed, creating error. With artificial intelligence, you can also look at that very specific point, but you can tell this is a promotion, or this is a sellout, or this is an out of stock. So that's basically the difference. So what at Garvis, we think is the model, is putting the planner in control of artificial intelligence to navigate the data. The planner needs to be in control because artificial intelligence on itself goes rampant and try to find connection everywhere where they belong. And in demand planning, that's really not true. But if you leave the planner without artificial intelligence, then he's going to drown in the data. So we have created what we call a process Bionication. What is it? You remember the data scientist, it should be the planner because he knows what the business needs. Him, we should give AI models that are built specifically for demand planning. What does it mean specifically for demand planning? That they understand that there is a baseline, that they understand that there are events, competition, and that they understand on which horizon these data make sense. Thirdly, these models should be transparent. So when the decision is made, we should not use deep learning. We should use models that can be translated and explain the information that it's a baseline, it's a promotion, it's a certain event, so that you can talk in your sales and operation planning. And then we want to work with internal and external data. Internal data, you hear me? Internal data, there is a lot more in your history than you can now use in your statistical environment. Think about COVID, think about stockouts, think about situation where you're negotiating with your customer. And then the data need to be put in an ontology or a context, and sometimes called like a digital twin. So, but not everything needs to be a digital twin. I'll come to that in a second. And then we want to offer zero implementation. You're here, right? No more implementation. And you won't believe me, but it's possible. Of course, you need to integrate, but the models should be learned from yourself. So how can they do that? And so to be fit for demand planning, you need to work around statistics and you need machine learning to help you make sense of the world. So statistical models cannot really forecast very well peaks, but the combination of the information from the planner plus the event that's going to happen allows you to indeed forecast this peak. So how does it work? The planner is in charge. He looks at the past together, supported by the machine learning, and identifies what are events, what are things competition did, what are outliers, and gives them as specific information. The system then can store that information. So when you clean your history, so-called, the knowledge doesn't get lost, but it can be applied to the future. And the more data you give inside and outside, the more the system learns and the more intelligent the system can become. So if you think about the digital twin, we don't want to make a digital twin of the whole world. We want to understand the world from a predictive power. If you look at the baseline to the right, the more you go to the right, the more predictive it becomes. If you look at the left, the more you go into the height, the longer it's. So what's very predictive? Shipments. What's less predictive, but still very predictive, is sense data, orders, sell-out information in the market, the orange color. And what are causals? Causals are less predictive because you always have to take care of what's happening in the environment. So the more information you have, the clearer it is, of course, the more predictive it becomes. So a digital twin should reflect the things that have an impact on your demand plan. So two examples from a customer. What's very difficult to forecast, I heard it this morning from Heineken, are promotions. Because when you have promotions, you have these one-off situations. So this peak in the beginning, combined with artificial intelligence, so that's the purple line, can capture those peaks quite correct if you give the type of investment the date, and they can learn together with the planner. But the most interesting thing is, for instance, when you have an event like COVID, you have the what happened. The black line is what happened after COVID, and the red bars are the information what happened during the COVID period. Sometimes the demand went away, sometimes but came back afterwards. Sometimes the demand disappeared completely, or sometimes the demand totally changed in nature. Demand changed completely is in, for instance, in the travel industry. So now what can machine learning do? Machine learning will understand the traditional forecasting will be the blue line. So it will just try to make an average of the past, but the planner can say what happens when I have another lockdown. In the case you have another lockdown, it will be the red line, demand will drop and will come back. Or I don't have a lockdown, and then the system will know that the events in the past won't count. So short testimonial.
My name is Tineke Kok, and I'm the Global Business Process Owner for Demand Forecasting in Jacobs Douwe Egberts. We've quite a challenge on our forecast accuracy, and we see in benchmarking that we lag our competitors in the industry. So we were looking for a good tool to implement artificial intelligence in forecasting. We're a highly promoted business, so it's quite difficult to make a good forecast. And on our quest, we found that a lot of companies and softwares were quite expensive and took quite a long journey to implement. But then we discovered Garvis, and we started to test a proof of concept, and found that there was no long journey of blueprinting, just very pragmatic testing, modeling, learning, and with very fast results. So I'm very happy with the results that we have with Garvis so far. They charge us no or hardly implementation cost, and we're seeing good results.
So glad that we are beyond this technical change. So the business case of artificial intelligence itself, and I especially took this picture of a tractor, not an advanced tractor. The goal of artificial intelligence, you don't have to think about it as a Ferrari or something that I will do 5 years from now. It is the tool that you need to help your planners, or the planners need to help to go and navigate the data. It's a support tool. It's a tractor. It helps you. And so it's a tractor that helps you on the level, on the time to install, to create a plan, to react, to help to reduce your error, and to create your insight, and always in combination with the planner at hand. So for time, first of all, the time to install. We heard this morning that when new processes are installed at integrated business planning, you want to be able to test it out. And why take 6 to 8 months, to come to a first? Why can't you do it like a day later? So we focused on reducing that time using data wranglers to take the history and translate it into time series on which artificial intelligence, together with the planner, can create a plan within 1 day. And so when you can create a plan in 1 day, it means that the planners can spend their time focusing more on the business and less time on creating the plan itself. So you reduce 70% of your time. But most importantly, also, we looked at the predictors over which horizon. You can look a lot further into the horizon on things that are sensed, that will come into your environment, and not just assumptions. Your time to react earlier than others, and that gives a huge competitive advantage. But also the accuracy. Okay, I can go into the details of the algorithms, and please, but what artificial intelligence allows you to do, all this tuning of the algorithms and looking at anomalies, it can do at very high speed, and ask for your advice, giving a huge increase in accuracy. And insights, that's the most important. If you go to an integrated business planning, you come in as a supply planner with your plan. If you use a statistical plan, it's around 40% error, and it can be less or more dependent on each organization. And then you try to see what's the most profitable plan that you can make based on the financial plan. That's the target that you want to achieve. So how do you close the gap? And most of the time, you close the gap by creating a consensus. A says 80, sales says 80, supply chain says 60. So we take the average 70, which is, of course, not the way to create the most accurate plan, because you pay for it by having too much stock. You pay for it by lost sales. So the whole new idea is to try to get to understand with artificial intelligence, what are the drivers? How much in the past is my success with new products? How do certain promotions react to what I want to do? How does the event interfere? And then use that information to have a data-driven decision, so that you not only create less error in creating your plan, but you also expand your potential up to 10% by creating the right mix of the money available, the markets attainable, and the products that you can set into the market. It's very important that your system remains evergreen, because evergreen, the traditional model is that you have a supply chain, you have a planning system, you have to ask your solution provider to keep it up to date, and therefore the system is almost always out of sync. In the Garvis environment, the system is always in sync, and evergreen is extremely important because of the psychology. If you can be always data-driven, you will set your stocks at the right level. So it brings me to the capital employed. And so if you have an average, you have to cater for all the differences between your demand plan and the real demand. The moving line is actual sales. The straight line was the forecast, where the blue line is the artificial intelligence forecast. So you have to take care a lot less. But you also understand a lot better what are the components of your demand, and how, and this is maybe a little bit too much information on the slides, but basically what it wants to say is that if you understand the drivers of your demand, and everybody has been communicated on it, you can get rid of the excess stock, which is most of the time a psychology of reacting to uncertainty that you can understand better by understanding the components of your demand. And then cost, of course. If I'm going to take some time to look at that. If you look at the orange line, you have the decreasing accuracy. There is a cost of decreasing accuracy. What's the cost of decreasing accuracy? Less revenue, more safety stock that you need to keep, lost sales. On the other side, you have the cost of forecasting. If you would have like 1,000 products and 1,000 forecasters, you would have a better forecast, but it would be prohibitive in cost. What artificial intelligence helps you to do is reduce this cost of forecasting. Because you have, implementation, all the elements, as I said before, the cost becomes a lot lower. So therefore, also the disadvantages of the cost of inaccuracy. So the conclusion is through bionication, through the availability of artificial intelligence, we can come to what we call a demand control tower. Processes that now take months could be active processes where events are analyzed, competition can be analyzed, customer can be checked and translate in the reactive weapons that we have or capabilities we have, promoting things, creating new products, or buffer for certain strategy. So we believe that change is going to stay, and we think that the combination human and man and artificial intelligence give you the opportunity to embrace change, to reduce your forecast error with 30 to 40%, but to buy yourself more time, create yourself money, and keep also your planners, which are becoming scarcer and scarcer, make them strategic, make them the eyes of your organization. So I have maybe one last slide that I added at the last minute, is that the world is turning digital. There is no way back, and artificial intelligence will be part of it. So it's almost impossible. This is from the University of Nyenrode, that we will have a shift in the way business is done and the society will work based on digital. So you need to have an environment that can deal with digital, not just a translation, but creating insight from that environment. Thank you very much. I'm available for questions or for demos in the virtual launch. Any questions?
Thank you, Piet, for this amazing presentation. People, if you have any questions, please join Garvis at the booth in Airmeet. You can go there, or you meet people from Garvis in the lounge. Thank you very much, Piet, for this presentation again, and for being one of our sponsors during this S&OP Vendor Day. See you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.